It's been a long time coming, but it's time to dig back into the controversy. And that's because we're bringing on the controversy man himself, our quarterback, Jack Tuttle. And we're going to get into everything that's going on with Michigan. Yes, I'm creating controversy just by doing this. Anyway, let's talk to Jack Tuttle on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. That's my quarterback, Jack Tuttle. We are in the pocket with Jack Tockett. And that's what we're doing. Jack, so good to have you back. We missed last week due to it's my fault, honestly, but we got you back finally. And to me, that in and of itself was controversial. But that I missed it, that I was the person who I was like, yeah, we got Jack coming on tomorrow. And then it was like 10 a.m. and I'm like, hey, it's today. And you're like, bro, come on.
Well, good. Well, it turned out to be a busy week last week. Had to go to Boulder and a couple technical issues with the camera. There's nothing you can do about that, Isaiah. It's really just you got to roll with the punches sometimes. And, we knew we'd get back at it.
Indeed, we did. So thank you first to all of our everydayers. Thank you for making us your first listen. We're just going to spend the entire time going over segments 1, 2, and 3, going over the last 2 weeks that were essentially in kind of more of a broad grand scheme. So first question that I have for you, Jack, is the sky falling? Should the program be canceled? Should all of the players transfer out and they go and get new players? Or is everything incredible? National championship on the way? Everything is amazing, or somewhere in between? What's your general feeling after what's happened in the last 2 weeks for the Wolverines?
Yeah, and we talked about at the beginning. What did we talk about at the beginning of the year? Bryce was young. This team is young. It's going to be a new experience, completely new team. This isn't 2023 where we had seniors, we had guys returning experience. This is not that year. This is a young team, and we especially saw it this past week with Purdue, where you have Browder out in the field, you have Marsh out there, you have Kuzdal out there. Justice Haynes isn't playing. Donovan McCauley got hurt at the beginning of the second half. He wasn't in the game. The tight end situation, Marlon's kind of been in and out. You have Zach Marshall in there, Deacon Tonelli. So there's just so much change, and I don't really understand the whole uproar with let's burn the city down mentality. This is a young team, and people have to understand that and just let them grow, because you start attacking the team, you start attacking the players, it's not a supportive base. And that's what this team needs right now, is supportive people and fans to say, hey, yeah, we get it. There's going to be some bumps along the way. This is a young team, and we're here through your development, and we're going to just ride along this journey. And you saw it, 2020, that COVID year, that was a rough year for Michigan. I wasn't at Michigan. That was a rough year, but that was a development year.
Wasn't as rough a year for you at Indiana, was it?
No, it was not. That was a great year at IU for us. One of the best. Up until now, they're going crazy. But, you look at that year, and that was a big development year. They're obviously doing way better this year, and they're growing. It's not time to burn the city down, call the team out, call for everyone's heads. It's not the time to do that. It's time to support right now.
One of the things that I've been kind of going on lately, and I know Connor echoes this, I'm sure you will as well, so it's kind of a loaded question, but one of the things that I think that fans are doing, and not think, I know, is they're looking at this and saying they're not going to beat Ohio State if they play that way against Purdue or Michigan State, the way they played those games. They're not going to beat Ohio State if they play that way, which I agree with, by the way. But they aren't playing Ohio State in those games, are they? That's more of a each game is its own vignette. What are your thoughts on extrapolating one game and putting it into that final one? And more so, because I already know the answer to that, more so, what do you want to see on a game-by-game basis instead of necessarily just pure dominance?
Yeah, you kind of hit multiple points there. You always want to see pure dominance in games, right? That's my team. We won 50-0. Everyone's happy. The quarterback threw for 300 yards. The running back threw for ran for 200 yards. Everyone wants to see that. But look, we just talked about it. That's not what's going to happen this year, most likely. This is a young team. They're developing, like we said. In the next, 2 games, we got Northwestern and Maryland, right? So these games are both away. Okay, so Michigan has been, back and forth in the away games. We want to see a team that's going to just grow offensively and just improve, protect the football. Because guess what? That's the biggest thing in the game, week 12, that has been a deciding factor, protecting the football, running the football well, time of possession. And right now, Michigan's running the football well. So you want to continue to see the run game improve and dominate while the pass game just slowly, just over time, just gets every week getting a little bit better. That's what you want to see over the next 2 weeks. And, this bye week, they just need to rest up and get guys healthy.
Yeah, that's been a massive concern. And honestly, that's a big part, I think. I mean, people are looking at it and saying they're not dominating. Well, you've got a bunch of guys who weren't starting at the beginning of the year. Not that they were dominating at the beginning of the year, but they looked more cohesive at the beginning of the year. Whether you have a mixture of guys who weren't playing, Andrew Marsh, Blake Frazier, Jake Guarnera. I know I'm missing some even on the offensive line. I think maybe that's it right now. Jordan Marshall wasn't even the starter. I know people expected him to be, but he wasn't the starter. Zach Marshall and Deacon Tonielli have been playing a bit. So you've got a lot of guys offensively who were not either they were low level rotational guys who are now essentially starters, or people who weren't playing at all who are now starters. And I think that plays a difference. So I have more questions for you offensively. Let's get to those here in just a moment. But before we do, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every single game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up today and play your game with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Jack, so see if I can remember I need to write these things down because I had a line of thought here. Oh yeah, I remember now. Obviously, we see that I always have to spell this out, because if I don't, people will say that I don't believe this. And Bryce Underwood played terribly last week. That I have to say that out loud without So even though it was obvious, right? To say, Michigan's final score of the Michigan Purdue game was 21-16. That's I don't have to say that, right? I feel, but it was obvious. I have to say these things, otherwise people will get upset and downvote the video and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of still am under the impression that things aren't necessarily as bad as people are making it out to be. That's at least how I feel. What is your take in general as far as the offense after these last 2 games? And do you think they can get back to a little bit more of how it looked earlier in the season?
Yeah, and that's going to be the question, Isaiah. It really is, Bryce, the turnovers for him were bad. Really not good. Whenever you have turnovers as a quarterback, that's tough. 2 turnovers plus in a game, it's not a good one. But, talent-wise, arm talent, his running ability, we all know what he can do and has the potential to do someday. So in a sense, you just kind of have to ride it out. You have to let him grow, get these in-game reps this season. And I feel like you and I already kind of knew that coming into the year, that there may be stuff that happens like this, bumps in the road, close games that shouldn't be close games. But, that's what we saw this game with him. And he's just going to have to continue growing and developing through that. He's the guy. He's going to be the guy whether people want him to or not. Bryce is extremely talented. He's going to be Michigan's guy. So supporting and his improvement is paramount for this kid to succeed down the line. When you look at the other issues, we already talked about it, injuries. You have guys, that are new, that miss assignments sometimes. I'm not going to name names and point fingers, but, there's just young guys in there that sometimes just MA, which is a missed assignment, or have a critical error, and it just disrupts the play and ultimately stalls the offense on the drive, right? So those things are tough right now because you're missing some star players. And like you said, on the whole you had a lot of new faces. Did I answer all your questions there, Isaiah? I think
maybe, I don't know.
Maybe there was a third one. I don't know. But that's the overall tale, right? Is just letting the boys continue to improve together going into next week. Do I see it getting better? I think that was the last question you had. No, it has to get better. It does. Somehow, some way, these coaches have to figure out, this identity and these new faces and just help them, whether it's easier play calling, whether it's just, just simple stuff to just help them play faster, because that's what you want to see. You see guys confused sometimes and doing the wrong things. Just, if you have to, simplify it so they can play faster and you get a better result.
I think one place, although I think this is probably where some of your MAs come from, the offensive line I feel has improved pretty greatly, even despite some of the new faces. Now, is it consistent? I don't think so, but to me, this group looks more cohesive than it did earlier in the season. What are your thoughts?
This new group, I think, when you get deeper into the season, even, there may be some new faces. Deeper into the season, you just feel more comfortable. Guys have gotten more reps than they have had in their whole careers. This year especially, when you got Blake Frazier, who hasn't played much, Andrew Marsh, they're getting more comfortable. But you still have guys that, Browder's still kind of just starting to get more reps and was in there for a longer period of time because Donovan McCulley was out. So, you saw he was new at times, but, overall, the run game, I feel like, is becoming more cohesive. That part of their offense is. It's coming together, and really, one of the only reasons they're able to win right now. In the past game, I don't know if that's becoming cohesive. They're still struggling in that department. They have to figure it out.
Yeah, although you just mentioned Jamar Browder, and that made me think. I think it's worth noting Nico Collins didn't come to campus, and he wasn't just suddenly Nico Collins, right?
Exactly.
You were in your first senior year back in 2017, but you were I think that was when you were at Utah, or maybe the school you were at before that. I'm not sure, but because a lot of people don't know, Jack has played for 130 different schools.
Yes,
so,
I have. Mm-hmm.
But I remember Nico Collins didn't really play in 2017, right? It was Tariq Black and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Then Tariq gets injured, and it was just Donovan Peoples-Jones. We didn't see much Nico Collins nor Oliver Martin. I think Oliver Martin was injured. Was probably why there too. But we didn't see much of them until late in the year. We started seeing Nico Collins, and when Nico Collins was out there, particularly I just remember in the bowl game against South Carolina, he was a bit of a liability in that game. He was not catching the ball. He didn't look very good. Fast forward to the next year, suddenly he's really good. And then the next year, he's really, really good. So we always talk about the axiom, you get better at football by playing football. Can you speak on that a little bit about that it does take guys time to grow a bit? Because I feel like we want it now. I understand we live in an instant culture. But how important is it for these guys to get this time, these younger guys, to get this time now, not just for next year, but even for later this year, just to be able to get this experience that they're starting to get?
Yeah, it's extremely important. And You kind of hit the nail on the head there. These guys getting these game reps right now is just an experience that not a lot of kids get at such a young age. Maybe that's the new age with NIL. I don't really want to get into that, but maybe, guys are starting to play at a younger age. But that is extremely important in terms of development, because you see, okay, let's just talk about it in the 3 to 4 years. The first year, they get in, they get some live game reps. Okay, they're getting their feet wet. They start to improve. By the end of the year, they're like, okay, I feel confident in this. I don't know. There's not a whole lot that can surprise me anymore. They go into year 2. Boom. Like, we can think about it in terms of JJ. JJ goes into year 2, way, way more confident. Starts ripping the ball downfield, more decisive in his reads and when to run and not to run. Okay, he's growing. There was a loss at the end of the year, which he learned a lot from. He's told me personally. Then you go into year 3, and then you're just oozing confidence, and you're ready to go, and you have that championship mentality. And what you could have in year 2, who knows? But this first year is really just, hey, I'm getting my feet wet. It's not a wash. This isn't a throwaway year. But this is, okay, I'm building my confidence. And that's what we see with Bryce. There's still things sometimes that surprise him here and there, or some freshman type mistakes, but those are going to just slowly go away for him. And I'm confident that, these next couple years with him are going to be kind of like the JJ era. JJ's second year improvement, his third year national championship, right? So it's going to be exciting, but there might be a couple hurdles along the way.
Indeed. Well, let's continue talking. We've got a few more minutes here to keep going as we find out if Michigan can defeat bye week. That's their opponent this week, bye week, and they are tough. They injure a lot of players, I've heard, unfortunately. Maybe not, hopefully not this time around. Anyway, we're going to continue on here in just a moment. All right, Jack, we haven't really talked about the defense, which it's funny because some people were bemoaning on the sideline the defense against Purdue, which Michigan held Purdue to its season low in terms of output. Now, not in terms of points, but in terms of yards. I went into that game feeling like, yeah, Purdue's going to move the ball here and there. It's an explosive offense. Might not be ranked as an explosive offense, but if you watched them, you just knew that they could get yards in bunches. What are your thoughts on where the defense stands right now?
Yeah, I feel confident in the defense. Coach Martindale, I love him. He's a character, and I think he's a great coach, in my opinion. People have their opinions, but I've seen him up close. I've seen the kind of, guy he is, and it's good. It's good. So there should be no worries about how Wink, operates or his system. I think, it's really just been injuries here and there, and they're continuing to get guys healthy. They'll be okay by the end of the season. They're continuing to get better, kind of like the offense. And the young guys, getting them reps, growing. It's the same kind of theme on that side of the ball. But when you look at this game, Purdue is a better team, right? They have a good quarterback. They have a new coach who was at UNLV the prior year. We played in 2023. He was Odom. He was at Missouri. Heupel coached under him. He is a good coach. Purdue is a better team this year, without a doubt in my mind. So you see their quarterback, Ryan Brown. I think he's playing a little bit better. He's pretty talented. I thought the defense overall did a good job. I thought they did a good job, and people might not agree with me, but forcing turnovers, Derek Moore getting sacks, I think overall is a good job for them. I don't really have too many complaints on the defensive side. They just need to keep getting better, and the young guys growing. What would you say, Isaiah? Did you see anything that pointed out on the defensive side that you didn't like? Let's turn the question back at you. Huh? I want to interview you for once right now.
The only thing that I don't really love about the defense is, as good as I think that front is, and even though they got a stop, I think it was the 4th and 2 or whatever, they got a stop, and it's the second week in a row that they've done that. Yeah, I don't feel confident in their ability to stuff a team that's got like 2 yards or 3 yards even or less to go. As much as I did, obviously, in the Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant era, I do think that a lot of times it's like, okay, it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. Might as well give them the first down because chances are that, they need that set of downs.
Yeah.
However, I do think that you're seeing more where those 3rd and longs are starting to become like they're not as much of a liability as they were for a while, right? Like, because that's the thing. You want to win on 1st and 2nd down. And they're doing that a lot of the times, not all the time. No defense does all of the time, not a single one, but they're doing it a lot of the times. And that was always the problem, is they were giving up the 3rd downs. And I think that they're getting better. I also love Wink Martindale. I think that he's doing a good job of adapting to what he has compared to maybe what he wants to do. And I think that that's really key. So
I agree with you. I agree with you there. The 30 hit on the 3rd downs. Purdue was 5 of 12, which is about average, and they can be a little bit better there. But as a quarterback, when you see a defense hold another team to 16 points, that's a good day in the office for them. Absolutely.
We're going to keep this one relatively short today, so I just have one more question for you. We've got the bye week now, then Northwestern, who's going to be more of a challenge for Michigan's offense. Maryland, which is going to be a little bit more of a diverse challenge because their defense, they're ball hawks. You can move the ball on them, but like they're kind of intermittent offensively. They're in a similar boat. Freshman quarterback, receivers with lots of drops, but been a little bit more of a prolific offense than Michigan's has been under Malik Washington. So with those 2 games coming up, like how are you feeling now as we're sitting back in the bye week? Because obviously you got to get through those 2 games. How are you feeling now about those 2 contests?
Yeah, those teams are both very, very seasoned and both good. And I mean seasoned just in terms of like this year they've grown to kind of figure out who they are. You see Malik Washington in Maryland. He's grown a ton as a quarterback. They may have a bunch of drops. Malik Washington is an extremely good quarterback. He's up for one of the best freshman quarterbacks in the country and is showing why he is with some of his throwing talent. He's not much of a runner, but that kid is decisive. They kind of built the offense around him. They're giving him answers, and they just have to come together and fix their drop issues, and they might have 2 or 3 more wins. They're extremely good team. They almost beat Nebraska. They should have beat Nebraska if they didn't fold at the end and Raiola had a Superman performance. They play Rutgers coming up and then Illinois. Those games will be fun to watch to see how they do. They did get crushed versus Indiana. I think a big matchup to watch this week will be Northwestern at USC. That's who they play this week. So that'll kind of be a good comparison to see how Northwestern plays in the Coliseum this week and if they can stand up against the Trojans. But Northwestern's beat UCLA, they beat Penn State, who's, even though James Franklin is gone, they are still a tall task to deal with because of the athletes on their team. That team is coming together, and Braun's doing a great job of creating that Northwestern culture that we see and have seen over the past couple of years. So if people think these games are just a joke and another type of Purdue game, they're wrong, because Northwestern is a very good team. Maryland, a very talented team with a very, very good defensive front and really good linebackers. Young team, but have gotten seasoned over the course of the season. So, Michigan's got a tall task these next 3 weeks after the bye to finish strong and, potentially get into the Big Ten championship if they win week 12 and then get into the playoffs. So they got to get healthy and continue just growing and finding their identity.
It is the crazy thing. Everything is essentially on the table. And despite Michigan not looking good, this has been what I've held. They found ways to win despite themselves, I think is the best way to put it. Despite themselves, they're generally finding ways to win. Only one game that they were just not in, and that was the USC game. Oklahoma, it was pretty clear early in that game they weren't going to win it, but they were in it until the final drive for the Sooners. So for a team that we see now, that you're looking at now, it's like, okay, now that's something to build on, and it will be interesting to see what they do coming up. So that's my quarterback, Jack Tuttle. I'm Isaiah Hole. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. We're going to be back next week with Jack. Tomorrow will be Connor Stallions with the Manifesto, and we will get to that. So thanks for watching again or listening. Peace.